My name is Genevieve Piturro, but I always wanted to be Mary Tyler Moore. I watched Mary every week. She was my idol. She moved to a big city. She got a job in TV, a single, independent woman. She had a great apartment, a fabulous best friend. They had so many adventures, and she had the most amazing wardrobe. I wanted it all. I wanted that success. I wanted that status. And I wanted that power. And what I came to learn over the next 20 years was that there was a very different idea of power that was more impressive and more meaningful. So I was climbing that corporate ladder, getting all the things that Mary had. And after 15 years of climbing very fast, I heard a voice. The voice came from here. Didn't come from here like it usually does. And the voice asked me clearly in a whisper, if this is the next 30 years of your life, is this enough? Wow. It rocked me. I sat down and I thought almost immediately, no, I missed something. In my very traditional upbringing, Italian family, father off the boat, mom's family from Sicily, I was the firstborn, first child, first daughter. That's me, the chubby girl on the right. And it really was expected that I would, yes, go to college, but then get married and have children. And that wasn't my path. It was very traditional, get a job, climb the corporate ladder, be successful. My father's work ethic and my mother's love. So that voice, that day, asking me if this is enough, really made me focus on what I had been doing and where I was going. And the answer that came so fast to me was, no, you did miss something. And I realized I missed having my own family and I missed having children. So I thought, what in the world could I do at that point to bring children into my life? And I watched the news every night and I read the newspaper every morning. And I saw pictures and heard stories of the atrocities that belonged to the children in my town, in my city, who were neglected and abandoned and brought into shelters. And I thought, oh my goodness, if I could go and reach those kids at night, maybe I could bring a little peace, a little normalcy to their lives. I don't know why that voice came to me. I thought I was on my way to what I thought would be a fulfilling life, but it came to me. I called the shelters. They were happy to have me come in, and I was thrilled to go in. I had a bag of children's books. I was in my corporate suit, and I showed up. They showed me into a room, which was bare, and the carpets were worn. There wasn't any place for a grown-up to sit. So I sat on the floor. I saw little faces at the door. And one by one, the children were peering in. And one by one, my heart was melting a little more. And it was a rush of emotions. I think I'd been climbing so fast that I didn't have time to feel what I was feeling then was just, I was overcome. One by one, they came in, they sat on the floor, and I read the stories. Week after week. That moment I arrived, and those minutes I spent with those children were the quietest I'd ever been in my life. Week after week, the same routine, a different shelter. One night, I went to see where they were going to another room to go to sleep at night. And what I saw broke my heart. They had nothing to change into. There were just futons and cots, and the room was as bare as the room I'd been reading in, and they were all the same in every shelter. Lovely staff, but this wasn't bedtime. My mom made bedtime incredible. We had cookies and milk and story after story, and she'd make up stories. And of course we had pajamas. There weren't any. So as I was leaving, I asked if I could bring pajamas, and they said, that'd be great. I brought pajamas next week. Sat on the floor, read the stories, and one by one, I gave out the pajamas to the kids. I thought they were going to be so excited, but as always, they were very quiet. One little girl wouldn't take the pajamas. She just shook her head. I didn't know what was wrong. The other children took the pajamas, no problem, went into the room to go to sleep, but not her. She was afraid. I didn't know what. So I tried one more time. She shook her head no. She wanted to watch me. So they let her watch me off to the side. I handed the rest of the pajamas out and I walked over to her. I still had the pink pajamas I had picked for her over my shoulder. I went over to her and I knelt down. And I said, honey, these are for you. I know they'll fit you. They're pink and you have pink in your shirt. And her shirt was soiled. And her pants were too short. And her shoes or sneakers were so big. And her ponytails were lopsided. So all I could do was offer her these clean, warm, and cozy new pajamas. I made one more attempt. And she looked at me and she said, what are they? What are pajamas? She could barely say the word pajamas. I found myself explaining to this little girl that pajamas are what you change into. That you didn't have to wear your clothes at night. That was it for me. My emotions were running amok. They took her over to the side, to the bedroom, and they changed her into the pajamas, and she gave me a little smile. And that was the beginning of the end, as they say. And that power that I thought was the all-important answer to everything that I was looking for wasn't. And a new idea of power was starting to form. I started to tell people about her, this little girl. I told everybody. And it seemed that everybody had been standing with me in front of her. She and I had this connection, this human connection. And then everybody I told this story to had the same connection, not just with me, but with her. Somehow the human connection, that whole idea is so powerful that it stops everybody in the moment, in the rushing of our lives, to see and feel that little girl. Talk about power. So everybody I told connected with me and with her, and with the same idea that this isn't right. Day after day, word spread. I got a call from a man who started asking me questions. Started asking me, why was I doing this? What was I doing? Where was I getting the pajamas? What did I think was going to happen? I thought I was going to get arrested. I didn't know what he was asking me all these questions for. And he said, do you think this is really helping? I said, that's all I can do. And he said, it is helping. I was a little boy in an orphanage, and the bedtime was my most frightening, lonely time. And I can tell you, I felt love from afar when I knew someone was thinking about me. And I know these children feel this love and your compassion from afar. So the human connection was starting in a small way. First with her to me, then with me and everybody else to her invisibly. And more people were being connected. First it was Dave. Then there was Hurricane Katrina. I got a call from a man named Randy. Randy said, you're giving out pajamas to children. What about the children of the families devastated by Hurricane Katrina down south? I have trucks if you have pajamas. Wow. It was just a couple of us doing this now. 11,000 pairs of pajamas showed up at his loading dock and put on those trucks. And we got down to the Houston Astrodome. Talk about a connection between all those people through one man who had the idea maybe the human connection would work. Got to the door of the Houston Astrodome. I had made contact with a nurse that was there. I needed to connect with somebody on that side. And she said, we need them desperately. These people have nothing, and these children, some of them are very sick, and I'm doing the best I can, but we have a full dome here. Bring those pajamas and call me when you get outside the doors. It was midnight. We got outside the doors. I called her, tried to get in. Before she can get to the doors, the security guard was telling us, no way. He wasn't opening that door to let the truck on the floor. I heard Lynn, and she knew I was on the other side of the door, and she knew what we had. And I heard her yelling at the security guard, threatening him with neglect if these children didn't get those pajamas, those clean clothes, because they had been in soiled and wet clothes for days. Those doors opened and our truck rolled onto the floor and those children got their pajamas. Lynn, a stranger, a nurse, connected to this little idea. This human connection was growing. A national magazine heard about pajamas for children. They wrote an article this big. Thousands, tens of thousands of boxes and letters and pajamas and books and cash showed up at my doorstep. I met a great man just during that time. And I told him what I was thinking about doing. And he said, go for it. Connection number 1,000. That magazine touched so many people that all those boxes kept arriving. It was unbelievable. I couldn't believe about this invisible connection. Then a national show, TV show call, said, come on, tell the story. Tell us about the kids. Tell us about what we can do. I went on to the show. What an incredible surprise to know that everyone in the studio audience was told to bring a pair of pajamas and then get as many as they could in ways that were going to be a surprise. 32,000 pairs of pajamas revealed, were collected. All those people, that human connection. And all along, I was still in awe and surprised and unaware of its power. But there was one more idea that still was going to come to the surface soon. 20 years and 7 million pairs of pajamas and books now distributed to children across the US and Puerto Rico. 63 national chapters in cities and states across the US. That power of the human connection led to a final idea, which is a truth that I became aware of suddenly, because all through the 20 years, people were saying, look at the power of one. Look at the power of one. People do things and it's just an idea. And look, it's the power of one person. That's all we need, one person. And I say, no. That human connection is not the power of one. It's the power of one another. And that power of one another moves mountains and moves people.